Good morning. I always mean to move this. Good morning. Heidi, out of the way, puppy. Well, there's an intro for you. Good morning. My name is Angela. Welcome. Welcome to the Saturday stream. Today is Saturday, December 20th. How's it going? I've already said my name. I'm a little flustered. I'm a front-end developer and software engineer in St. Paul, Minnesota. On this channel, we are vanilla pretty much everything. My glasses are fogging up on me because I've been running around. We do vanilla pretty much everything on this channel. HTML, CSS, JavaScript. How's it going? It's already a shit show, isn't it? Okay, well, it's been a heck of a week. I almost thought about not doing the stream for the rest of the year, for the rest of December. And then I was like, no, you need to do it. And I'm so glad because there's something about needing to be up and at 'em and ready to go on a Saturday and a Sunday morning that just sets the tone for the entire weekend. So even though sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know, should I take a weekend off? I get up and I get ready and I hit go live, and I'm just always so glad that I'm here doing this. So thank you to those who are here watching, hanging out, spending time with me. You are amazing. I love you all. And I just love being here on YouTube. So even if I'm cranky, even if I'm complaining about something, I love being here and I love you guys. So there's that. Go Elmo Go is here. So it's actually Go Elmo, formerly Go Elmo Go, currently Malik Robinson. YouTube used to put display names in the chat. Now they're doing usernames in the chat. So I don't think it's a big secret that Go Elmo's name is Malik Robinson. Malik is one of the mods. We love him. And also, Malik, you sent me a DM on Instagram this week. I was knuckles deep in my Christmas shopping at Walmart when you sent that to me. I'm so sorry I didn't respond, but I will respond today after the stream. So, I'm sorry about that. Kashi Fooden is here. Hello, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. Do me a favor, if you haven't liked the video yet, would you be so kind as to do so? Helps us push this out to more people who might be interested in front-end development and all vanilla. Let's talk about all vanilla because I think I mean, I say this every stream, and as my audience grows and new people find me, I think that it's important for me to say this every stream. I'm not anti-framework, not anti-library. I'm just pro learning the basics. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are the three things that a browser renders natively. So your React, your Angular, your Tailwind, all of that gets compiled into something vanilla that the browser reads. Now, I understand why frameworks and libraries are important. Let's take something like Tailwind. I think this is a great example of why I think things like that are a great idea for a large organization with lots of web properties, let's say. Imagine that you have something in production for 4 or 5 or 6 years, and the number of developers that might cycle through that department of maintaining whatever that web property is. If there was no framework and it was all vanilla, imagine the spaghetti CSS that would turn into with developers kind of rolling their own over the years, right? When you adopt frameworks and libraries at large organizations, or just to keep the work consistent, that absolutely makes sense to me. I totally get that. However, it's interesting, based on the comments and people in the chat, it's interesting the comments that I get where this is an example of one that I had in maybe in the last month or so, where the commenter said, why are so many people teaching vanilla instead of, why have so many people on YouTube started teaching vanilla or are going back to basics and not teaching Tailwind as an example when learning front end? What an interesting question. That says to me that that person is probably relatively new and is learning and immediately learned CSS with Tailwind and wants to know now why people are even bothering to teach vanilla because things like Tailwind exist. Isn't that wild? That's crazy to me because I started learning in 2009, 2010. When did Bootstrap come out? At the end of 2010 or 2011, something like that. So there wasn't anything besides vanilla. We had Sass. I do remember learning Sass very, very early in my career, maybe 2010, 2011, and that's been around for a while. But Sass isn't a library. Sass is a compiler, and you can write functions, you can write, includes and variables and things like that. That was really cool. But you were still essentially writing vanilla CSS, even if it was nested. You still had to understand display and positioning and things like that, right? So I am at a point in my career now, 12 and a half years in as a front-end developer, where I'm officially old school, and I love it. Because I've never built a project with Tailwind. I know Bootstrap. I've worked on Bootstrap projects. I've worked on foundation-based projects. I have never built anything from scratch. And at this point in my career, I've built hundreds of sites. It has to be hundreds of sites. I've built hundreds of sites, and I've always done it myself. I've always written the CSS myself. And for a long time, I was a Sass user. And I'll also say this, I've gotten jobs. I've gotten agency jobs. I've gotten freelancing jobs. I've gotten contracting jobs, specifically because I could write my own CSS. I understood CSS, and I didn't rely on Bootstrap or Foundation or Tailwind. So don't underestimate what an asset that will be for you to go into a job or an organization or a contracting or freelancing gig, being able to say that you understand vanilla. It's an asset. Now, with that being said, I get it. People just need things that work. They don't have time. Not everybody, this is the other thing I've learned being here live streaming. Not everybody has the deep desire that I have or that other people who hang out in the chat have to really understand all those basic things, right? To understand the nuances of, I can't believe I'm saying this, the nuances of positioning, even though I really, really want you to understand those things. I get it. Some people are in a hurry. They're busy. They just need things that work. In 2026, I do want to start focusing on open source work that helps people who are just busy and need things that work. And I think what that looks like, I've put a lot of thought into this, are digital products. And so this is basically, this is such a good segue into what we're going to start working on today. And I'm going to put this in the chat. I do have this linked down in the description. We are going to start redesigning this website that I built in 2013 called Responsive Video Gallery. So let's scroll through this. Here's this video gallery, and I'm using all jQuery, and I'm using a jQuery plugin called FancyBox. That's what this modal window is. Because back in 2013, I didn't understand JavaScript at all. Made no sense to me. And I built this before I even had a job as a developer. I have such fond memories of building this. Because I was obsessed with open source work. I was very much aware of the fact that I was learning how to be a developer based on the generosity of people who were doing open source work and freely putting their work out into the ecosystem for the rest of us, because we didn't have courses and boot camps like we do now. YouTube was a shit show. Good luck finding tutorials or courses or videos, anything on YouTube that was helpful. I definitely couldn't. It was blogs, it was books, it was definitely GitHub. There are CSS tricks, and it was a lot of determination and grit. A lot of determination and grit. So I wrote all these instructions. Here's the markup. Look at me using semantic markup, figures and articles. And I made everything vanilla CSS because I recognized the fact that people, not every, at the time it was less or Sass, and I wanted to be agnostic. So I put in instructions for vanilla CSS. Look at this, floats. We did everything with floats back then. There was, I mean, I don't even know if Flexbox, I think Flexbox existed, but we really weren't using it yet. And then I had how to use FancyBox with jQuery. And look, I had people loading jQuery from, where is this? This was probably a CDN from jQuery. I used to load jQuery from the Google APIs. Google APIs, jQuery. Hosted libraries. Right here. So this clear, I don't know why I made the decision to, I must have just decided to link directly to jQuery. I remember though doing everything from the Google API CDN. Anyways, doesn't really matter. And then I wrote instructions. Look at me. And this is why I did this. So I have 2 graduate degrees. I don't want to sound like a jerk bragging. I have 2 graduate degrees. I worked really hard for them. My first graduate degree is a Master of Science in Technical Communication. And I made this right at the time when I was finishing that program. So I am essentially a technical writer, right? So that's why I did this. That's why I wanted to do this. I was like very much into documentation and wanting to blog, and I just saw open source work as being this incredible opportunity to teach people what I had learned. And so that's really what this was all born out of. And I also was seeing just a lot of really poorly written documentation, and I was like, I don't want to be one of the people who's doing things badly. If I'm going to do it, I want to do it in a way that is clear and concise. So anyways, I also was not accessible. I think it's fair to say I was not particularly accessible back then. So a lot of this right now, I don't think any of this is accessible. So like let's even just look. Background, text shadow, here's the color. Yeah, contrast ratio 3.76. So this is not accessible. Is this accessible? Color. Not, look at, I mean, I wouldn't say it was close, but it was close-ish. Now what about this? Yeah, none of these are accessible. I mean, I knew that. This is the first time I'm officially checking, but I didn't need to check to know that they weren't going to be accessible. So we're not going to do this. I do want to make sure that we're using copy and paste code snippets. So this is probably one of the few times you're going to see me use a library. We're going to use Prism.js. And this is old. It's been around for a really long time, but it's a JavaScript library that does syntax highlighting. And I do want this for this site. I do want this. You can see this is really nice syntax highlighting. And they've got lots of different color choices and options. So we're going to do this because I like how this looks. And I don't want it to be all one color. I want there to be some syntax highlighting. There are some other considerations here when it comes to doing these so we've got pre and code. Pre is, let me see here, HTML pre, what do you call it? No, that's not what I wanted. Here we go. Pre-formatted text element. So we're going to be using the pre-formatted text element. And when you use pre-formatted text, you can't put in, oh, well, let's just look at this. Here's the HTML file. Oh, interesting. This does look, usually you have to do less than and greater than symbols, or this will get, what do you call it? Rendered in the browser. That's interesting. Okay, if it's in pre-tags, do you not need to do? Because I do this on my personal website. I'm using Prism, and you have to use and greater than or and less than in order for this to work and not be, right here it is. I had to do it here, and less than right here. Do I not have this inside pre-formatted code? I do, right here. So it works in some places, it doesn't work in other places. Well, we're going to find out together, aren't we? So we're going to redo this website. And so, okay, back to my original point, which is that in 2026, I want to start making digital products because I absolutely believe in my ability to earn money from YouTube. It's taking a wee bit longer than I thought it would. And you know what? That's fine. I'm here for it. It takes as long as it takes. In the meantime, I need to find a way to generate some revenue in 2026. So I've spent a lot of time thinking about digital products because I really do not want to make courses. I think there are so many people doing courses on YouTube that are doing it so much better than I ever could. I love the niche that I've carved out on YouTube, which is these long project videos, because I believe so strongly in project-based learning. I think that's a better use of my time. But I'm also still I also believe in open source work. So in order to sell a digital product, I think there has to be a great free open source version of that product. So for the responsive video gallery, I think the first step in making something like this a digital product, something that somebody would buy, is that we make a great free version first, a great open source version first. And of course, I want to stream the entire process. I want people to see me making those decisions and doing the code and learning from it. But also, if you're somebody who just needs something that works, maybe you're willing to pay for a premium version of this. So this is my thinking. And I enjoy sharing that thinking process with you all. I like telling you guys about that, what I'm thinking and what I think may or may not work. So there's that. Okay, well, are we ready? Did any of that make sense? Let me know. Let me know if any of that made sense. So, okay. And GoGo Elmo says, all good, no big deal. I think you're responding to the fact that I did not respond to your DM on Instagram. I do apologize for that. Here's the other thing about what's been going on this week. So this is an aside. So the last couple of years, well, for years, I have been making a concerted effort to not do as much online shopping because I'll just be honest with you, for me, that's been a problem for me. That's been what I like to call a coping mechanism. So I also I hate the thought that is it just me, or does it bother anybody else that there's this logistics infrastructure in place to deliver us a bunch of crap that we probably don't need because of how easy it is to order things online? So I really don't want to make like a big statement about consumerism. Really, what I want to say is that I'm just trying to change my own habits and be better about not using shopping as like a coping mechanism, because in hindsight, for most of my adult life, I've been doing that. And shopping online just made it worse. COVID especially made it worse. So the last couple of years, I've been making this very concerted effort to not buy things online unless I absolutely need them. So as an example, I bought one thing online Black Friday. It was a gift for somebody that I couldn't get anyplace else other than online. Everything else, I have drove my behind to the store and I got it myself. And I'm so happy that I did that. It is so much less stressful to order something and then wait 2 or 3 days or a week or however long and then deal with where does the box get left and can I find it? And yeah, I don't know. It's just so stressful. So the flip side of that is that I have been to Costco twice, Target twice, and Walmart once. I have been out in a store every single day this week, and that is not normal for me. I go to the store once a week and I do my shopping. I go to Costco one week, I go to Walmart the next week, I go to Target the next week. It is just not normal for me to be out in public, driving around, interacting with people this much, and it is exhausting. So on the one hand, I'm very pleased with myself that I've gotten all this shopping done for Christmas, and I've purchased gifts and I'm helped plan the menu with my dad, which I am so excited about Christmas this week with my family. But I'm also exhausted. And twice in the last 2 weeks, because I live in Minnesota and we have had a ton of snow, ice, very brutally cold weather here the last few weeks. Twice I was not paying attention to the weather or the road conditions, and I got caught in a snowstorm trying to get home. And that is so stressful. It is just beyond stressful. And I kick myself because I did not do a better job paying attention to the weather, because it's not, I work from home and I only go out once a week. So I don't need to pay a lot of attention to the weather. I don't know. I'm just saying it's been a stressful couple of weeks, but I'm also so happy that I was able to like stick to my no online shopping. And I'm very much looking forward to Christmas this week, spending time with my family. And yeah, so it's just been a lot. It's been a lot. And God help me, I'm not going anywhere this weekend. This is it. I'm streaming this weekend and I'm just going to stay home. I'm not going anywhere. I think it's finally all done. So nobody asked, but that's what's going on here. So, and AK Code says, sorry, hello, because of my illness, I was not able to join, but now I'm fine, so I hope I'll be able to join in time. Oh, no apology necessary. I think that is so sweet that you let us know how you're doing. I'm sorry that you've been dealing with an illness, but I'm obviously glad that you are starting to feel better and you're hanging out with us. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. And Iwo, I'm so sorry I'm not going to be able to say these names. Iwo Lajid, it makes sense. I think you are commenting on me not wanting to do so much online shopping. Yeah. It's a first world problem. I get it, but it is what it is. So, okay, so here's what we're going to do. I kind of decided that I was going to start this project in the planning phase. So here is the mock-up that I chose. And we've worked on this hilltop mock-up before. What did we do? We did... let's see here. Hilltop landing page. So here's one of the many mock-ups that came with this Hilltop pack of mock-ups. They had a bunch of different column and grid layouts. I also just sort of like the clean header and navigation. They used a font icon pack, and I don't have all of those icons. So I have this in Affinity Photo. I also have this, I have the PSD just as in our preview app here. So if we look at this up in the upper right-hand corner, our new site is not going to have search. It's going to be a one-page website. I grabbed an Instagram icon, a LinkedIn icon, and a GitHub icon. So we're going to put 3 icons up here in the top right. I want to, even though it's a one-page website, we are still going to do navigation with smooth scrolling to each of the sections. And we did that before too. Let's go look at that. So this is also something that I didn't know about until recently. Back in the old days, we had to do smooth on-page scrolling with, well, actually, this got deployed. You had to do smooth on-page scrolling with jQuery, or that, at least that's how I did it. Now it's native. It's part of the HTML spec, which is so cool that we can do this nice smooth scrolling. So we did this on fiberandcraft.com. This is a project that we did a couple months ago, I think. And we're going to implement this on the responsive video gallery as well. Let's go back here. And then let's see if we can, I would like this to just be responsive video gallery. That's what I would like. So let's work on our mock-up here. This also sort of implies to me that this would be some sort of filtering. We're not going to do any filtering. I think since I want to make different versions of the gallery, I think it makes sense actually to have this as a header, 4 columns grid classic, because this is going to be the open source version of this project, the 4 columns grid classic. So this kind of makes sense to me, but I don't think I'm going to include this. And I like this layout. I like how this looks. I like how this footer looks. And then we'll do different sections for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And it will include the Prism.js library for copy and paste code. And then we will, I have work to do in the coming weeks where I'm writing the instructions about how to implement, writing the documentation about how to implement things. But this is going to be our starting mock-up for how we get this implemented. And then this mock-up pack also had a version of how the navigation should look. And I really like this. I like that it's dark. I like that we're duplicating some social media icons. So we're duplicating things. We're going to have to really think about how we want to implement that. It's not exactly a best practice to duplicate things on a page, but I tend to use body classes for opening and closing, and we can use those body classes to show and hide things from screen readers and keep it still accessible and SEO friendly, because I just like the look of this. I do. And I think that my navigation is kind of utilitarian. Being generous, it's a little utilitarian. It totally works. It's functional, and that is the most important thing. Sometimes utilitarian is a little bit boring. So, and I like how this looks. It's super clean. It's slightly fancier than what I normally do, so we're going to do this as well. So we've got a couple really good starting points here for getting this going. So AK Code is asking, okay, what did I miss this month? I forked the blog repo from your profile. My little sister started coding and she made some changes and did a PR request from my ID. Yes, I saw that. And I'm so sorry. I haven't gotten to that yet. Here's the other thing let me tell you also about what I've been doing in December. I took a little step back from YouTube. So I'm still here on the weekends streaming. I'm still working on things, but I took a little step back from pretty much everything else on YouTube. Part of that was just that I had some personal business that I wanted to take care of before the end of the year. And another part of that is that I needed a little bit of a break. If you were here, you probably, if you haven't been here, then you missed this a couple of weeks ago. I got a copyright strike on music that I purchased a license to use and was in one of my vlogs, which I've actually removed all the vlogs from this channel. I had 6. Oh, one moment. One moment. So as I was saying, I got a copyright strike on music that I had paid for a license for and that I had used in one of my vlogs. And I've since deleted the vlogs because, number one, I sort of discovered that I don't really like vlogging. They're a lot of work and nobody watches them. Out of the 6 that I did, only one had 100 views. The others didn't even get close to 100 views. So nobody's really watching them and they're a lot of work. Plus, I spent hundreds of dollars to buy a license for music and I still got a copyright strike because YouTube made a mistake about the origin of that music. And I'm still mad about it. I'm less mad, but I'm still mad about it. So I decided that I needed to take a little step away from YouTube and I needed a break from coding in general. So I'm still here on the weekends, but I haven't really been doing anything else. I've just been taking care of some personal business, like I said, some things that I wanted to get done before the end of the year. And that break has done me wonders. Unfortunately, I have not kept up with email, some pull requests. So I promise you I will in the next couple of weeks. I actually had other pull requests, not just yours, but I had other pull requests on the blog repo, and I will get all of those taken care of within the next couple of weeks. So thank you for the reminder. And also thank you for caring enough to even do that. I really, really appreciate that. And thank you for reminding me in the chat. So, and thank you for being here. I appreciate you. You guys are amazing. So, okay. So does this all make sense, what we're going to do? I think that we're getting kind of a late start. I mean, it's December 20th. I think that this is probably going to take us well into the end of January because I still want to be able to do this type of functionality. But obviously, I want this all to be vanilla JavaScript. I don't want this to be jQuery or a jQuery plugin. And JavaScript is like my big weakness. So I need to get better at JavaScript. So we're going to do it together. We're going to do it together, but I think this is going to be really fun. Oh, and Artie and Trees is here. He says, "Hi, it's been a while since I've been here." It has been. Welcome. Thank you for checking in and hanging out. I think that's so cool that you're saying hello. I love all you guys. I do. I really, really do. You're my little YouTube family. So yeah, we all get to hang out together. Okay, so let's do a little work here. I want to see if we feel like this has enough room. Let me see here. Oh, I think we need to do this. There we go. I can zoom out a little bit. Do we have enough room for responsive video gallery? Responsive. Okay. Stop. Responsive video gallery. Maybe responsive video gallery. Should we just do that? RVG. Or this is stuff that I could spend a lot of time thinking about. Responsive. Let's just do video gallery and let's just make it smaller. Seems kind of obvious. Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense. We'll just make it a little smaller because I do like having the full name up there. And then I don't think this navigation is going to be as big, right? So we'll have, I don't think we need to have home, maybe gallery, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then I don't see us having maybe more than this. Let's see here. Get this centered. Yeah, I think that works. And then we'll replace our icons here as well. I have those downloaded already. And let's see here. And Terry Murray is also here. Welcome. It has been a while for you too. It has been a while. And Ardian is asking, do I use Figma? I've never used Figma. I was really a devoted Photoshop user for years. Then I used Sketch. When I was working at St. Thomas, I used Sketch a lot. And then I wanted to, so when I had a license at St. Thomas and my license covered 2 computers. So I was able to use for free all Adobe products on my St. Thomas computer and my personal computer. And then last year, last year when I kind of made the decision to leave St. Thomas, I was like, oh, I'm going to need a plan B. And I went to go look at the pricing for Adobe, knowing it was very expensive and difficult to get out of a contract. And that's when I discovered Affinity, and I wanted something that was similar to Photoshop. I didn't want to go back to Sketch. I liked Affinity because it also had an InDesign and an Illustrator sort of competitor, so I could get all 3 for a one low price. And yeah, I just never really got into Figma. I never even really tried it. So I'm not opposed to it. I don't know. This is just the direction that I went. I know it's very popular though. Let's see here. And Bikash is here and back. My university went well. Oh, that's good. I'm so glad. Been working on a client site, Terry Murray says. Good for you. I didn't know that you were a freelancer. I'm happy to hear that. Happy to hear that. I've been doing a little bit of freelancing myself. So Freelancing is an interesting game. Very interesting game. Okay, so let's get our icons in here and we'll make a couple other changes. And then, yeah, no reason why we can't start writing a little HTML today, right? Let's see here. Header, separator, additional actions. I think this is the additional actions right here. So I do have some SVGs. I'll stick those right there. Do we have guides? Kind of. Make this a little tiny bit bigger. So 16 pixels would be 1 rem. That makes it easy CSS wise, doesn't it? So there we go. Perfect. All right, and then got Instagram. It's going to be a long, cold winter in Minnesota. Long, cold winter. So I love the idea of just sort of hunkering down, working on an open source project. Whoops. Working on an open source project, working on this new idea that I have for digital products, which I think is kind of exciting. Okay, you're like snapping to something. It's snapping to like, there we go. Okay, well, you get the gist. Oh, stop. Okay. Yeah, I was pretty angry about this copyright strike situation. I've definitely calmed down. Not as angry as I was. I'm definitely bitter though. I try not to hold grudges, but I hold grudges. I do. I hold grudges. Okay, there we go. What do we think? So yeah, we would have gallery as the, and this would be like a sticky header, right? So you would always be able to scroll. Let's take this out. The filters. I'm not going to have filters. And then here's the projects. Let's move this up a little bit. I think we can move this up a little bit. Four columns, grid classic. Honestly, that makes sense. That wording even makes sense. As if this is going to be like the open source version of this project, that makes sense. I like how this looks. So even though responsive video gallery is a little long, that's okay. That is perfectly fine. I like these 3 social media icons. We have a very modest menu. So this is an excellent starting point. And then let's also do let's put in our mobile version and just make sure that this looks the same. So I don't care about anything that's going on here in the background. I only care about what's happening here. So let's, and I guess, what else would we add down here? So if I've got 3 icons in the upper right-hand corner, they've got 5 down here. We could definitely put in an additional icon for YouTube that points back to the channel or points back to this, like once the project for this video is released, like after, or the playlist for the stream and the project video, whatever. So we could definitely do YouTube, Instagram, GitHub, LinkedIn, and then I could go ahead and put in an icon for X. I am on X. I don't post very much on X. I'm a lurker, not a poster, which makes sense that it could just be grouped down in the footer and not up in the header. Okay, so let's grab an icon for YouTube and grab an icon for X. And then we need open and close icons for the menu as well. Yeah. So here's ionicons, close. Menu. And I don't think they have an X. It's one of the brands they don't have. They probably don't like Elon Musk. That's my theory about why Ionicons didn't put in an X icon. They just don't like Elon Musk. A lot of people don't like Elon Musk. That's okay. You don't have to like him. But can you include an icon to one of the biggest sites in the world? I don't know. Just an idea. Let's see here. Okay, let's find, I do have an X icon here someplace. Okay, here we go. One moment. I'm not going to replace all of the icons in the footer for the mock-up, but I do have all of our icons. So we've got X. I included this because I was also actually, that's a good idea. Okay, I have another idea. This is what I was thinking this morning. So we've got menu, LinkedIn, Instagram, GitHub, close. I do have something else that I want to include up here. So I've already decided that I want to sell digital products on Gumroad. Has anybody else heard of Gumroad? So I think there's another one called Lemon Squeezy. I decided to go with Gumroad. So when and I've already created an account on Gumroad. When I'm ready to sell a digital product, I'm gonna do it here. But I was also thinking I need to be able to link to my Gumroad, I guess, store. So Gumroad, whoops. But this would link out. So let's make sure that we let people know that if they click that link, they're being taken off the site. Oops. Yeah, and then what color is this? Let's see here. What color is that? I can't see it. It's right here. Okay. 161616. So let's put a mask over top of this. Just a little, let's see here. Color overlay. It doesn't really look like it has the overlay, does it? I guess it does. Okay, well, we'll define some variables here for colors and make sure that they're accessible also. So there's our navigation. We'll make sure that this is centered. Let's group these. So here's the nav, here's the background. Make sure that's centered. Yeah, that overlay isn't working. I don't know why. Clearly, that seems just so much darker than the rest, but who cares? I don't care. We'll get it. We'll figure it out. Okay, I like this. I like this. And then these are obviously going to be our videos. This aspect ratio isn't quite right. The aspect ratio is going to be 16:9. I do want the video gallery to support Vimeo or YouTube. How popular is Vimeo? Is Vimeo still popular? I feel like people still use Vimeo. Should we just make this YouTube only? I feel like it needs to be Vimeo or YouTube supported. What I'm probably going to end up doing is making a JSON file with all of the data for the videos. So the link to the thumbnail, we're going to link directly to the thumbnail. I'm not going to download a bunch of thumbnails. It'll have that code, like the URL, the endpoint for each video. I don't really want to use the YouTube API. I just don't want to deal with that. I would much rather just make my own JSON file with the list of videos that I want to include in the gallery. I want some to be YouTube, I want some to be Vimeo, because it's not wildly different, but it is a little bit different. The iframes are, which is completely fine, but I want to support both. And yeah, I think a JSON file is the best way to deal with it. It's going to be the cleanest way to deal with it. But we can still make sure that we're showing people what the markup looks like, so people can decide for themselves. Do they want to use a JSON file like I'm doing, or do they want to just put in static, or are they going to integrate this with a WordPress website or a CMS where you just pop in your code and you loop through it? People can figure out for themselves how they want to deal with it. So, okay. And Terry's asking, have you tried Zed? I don't even know what Zed is. Let's check it out. Oh, it's a code editor. Interesting. Love your editor again. Zed is a minimal code editor crafted for speed and collaboration with humans and AI. I have not. It costs money. Personal. Okay. Personal, $0 forever. The next generation code editor, free forever. Unlimited use with your API keys or external agents like Claude Code. And then we've got Pro, the next generation code editor plus AI, supercharge your development. That's interesting. Our personal plan is for users who want a best-in-class code editor without AI capabilities. A token is a unit of text processed by an LLM, roughly 3 to 4 characters of English text. With token-based billing, you're only charged for the text your prompts and responses actually consume. Costs vary by model, but Zed Pro bills at API list price plus 10% for hosted usage. Yeah, this is going to be, we're going to start to see a lot more of this, aren't we? We're going to start to see a lot more code editors like this where AI is integrated with different types of pricing models. Yeah, we're going to see a lot more of this. And Ardian Trees says, impressive. I've never even touched Adobe except Premiere Pro. Even though I have a license, Figma seems easier to me than Photoshop. Well, that is a fair statement because Adobe products were not easy for me to learn. I spent a lot of time, hours of my life watching lynda.com tutorials back when it was lynda.com. Now it's LinkedIn Learning. I spent hours of my life learning to use, first I think I learned Illustrator, then I learned InDesign, then I finally learned Photoshop. And the Photoshop tutorials were obviously really focused on photo editing, which I don't care about. I do very little photo editing beyond cropping and optimizing. Once in a while I do a little color correction, but I wanted to use Photoshop for web design. And then finally, Lynda came out with some shorter classes because everything was like 9 or 10 hours long. Although I'm not one to talk, I do massive project videos too. I get it. But to watch a 9-hour video that is 90% something I don't care about, they finally came out with some shorter videos on how to use, it was basically like Photoshop for web designers. And that was before Figma or Sketch or Affinity, before any of those things really existed. And finally, that's when I learned to use Photoshop and I was sold. I mean, I used it for years, like 10 years I used Photoshop for web design exclusively. Everything I did was mock-ups, and I was doing mock-ups constantly because I was freelancing for such a long time. I mean, obviously, look at all the mock-ups that I own, Photoshop mock-ups that I own. Yeah, so I got and so with all that time and energy put into Photoshop, I also just genuinely enjoyed the mock-up process and the layers and the overlays and how to do masking and all those things. I understood those things. I liked doing them. And I was really excited when I found Affinity Photo, and that is basically a dupe. It is like an excellent dupe of Photoshop. So, but I also understand that Sketch and Figma, maybe not so much Sketch. I think people still use Sketch. It still exists. It's still a thing. But I know Figma is very popular. So, oh, and Terry Murray says that Kevin Powell is now using Zed, the CSS king. So I don't watch a ton of Kevin Powell videos. I've watched a few. But yeah, he is obviously amazing. He is the CSS king. So can I be the CSS queen? What about princess? Can I be a CSS princess? I would like that because I love CSS. Is it obvious that I like CSS? I hope so. I think it is. Okay, I don't think we need these. Let's close a few of these. I'm going to keep this open. I don't think we need this. Here's the other thing I was thinking about. One second here. The other thing I was thinking about is, do I want to start a new repository, or do I keep working on the same repository? And I'm not sure yet. I'm leaning towards starting a new repository for this project, and then basically just saying that this repository is deprecated. So right now I have the link to this, to the actual URL, but I could still keep this version, this original version, just on a GitHub page, and then make a note that this is deprecated, and then link to a new repository. Because look at this README, basically has all the same information, right? Yeah, I think that makes sense. So I think I will start a new repository for the new version of responsive video gallery. So that makes sense to me. Sure. Oh, and Terry, are you saying that I can be the CSS princess? I like princess better than queen for what it's worth. So, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and write a little bit of markup. What do we think? And you know what? We're just gonna have a nice chill day today. We're just gonna have a nice chill day where we write a little markup. Easy peasy. No big deal. Let's get this ready here. I guess I do have this ready. All right. Let's do this. Don't need this. Thank you, Terry. I appreciate that. Index.html. That's all we need today, people. We don't need anything. This is the beauty of vanilla. Try it. If you want to get better at your vanilla skills, just try making a couple of things with vanilla. You don't need Node. You don't need a package manager. You don't need a compiler. You just need index.html, style.css, and a little determination and grit. That's all you need. That's all you need. Okay, so we're going to start with the header. Header. And then we want a main. And then we want a footer with a class of footer. So let's make sure that this is handy. So this is going to be it's a one-page website. So responsive video gallery is going to be the H1. Then we've got a nav element. And I also like to put social media icons in a nav element because they're links and that's navigation. So we'll start with an H1 with a class of primary. We'll just say primary logo. This is going to be responsive video gallery. Oops. And when I have text that is supposed to be uppercase, I never type it out as uppercase. I think that that's the job of CSS to do that. So I type out everything in title or sentence case. And then I use CSS if I want it to be upper or lower. And then we'll do nav with a class of main, class with a nav with a class of navigation. And then we'll do a UL with a class of main nav. And then we'll do some LIs. So we've got gallery, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, gallery. Oh, and we do need these to be inside anchor elements. So we'll do this. And then it would be this would be gallery, HTML. Okay, well, that's the exception, that HTML and CSS are going to be uppercase. And then this would be, let's actually grab the link to Gumroad. We'll just do this. Stop. And then let's grab our SVG to link out. I think it's, so we've got menu, it's open. I think this is it. And this is aria hidden true. And then I'm going to take out anything. So we've got fill equals none. And then we've got stroke equals current color. So my habit when I'm using SVGs, which I'm always using SVGs, is to take out anything with an inline color or anything like current color, an attribute like current color. So I'm not removing the attribute, but I'm taking out whatever the attribute is equal to. So if you don't do this, you're going to have a really difficult time styling your SVGs. So just a pro tip. Now we're going to have a lot more, we're going to have complete control over the styling and the color of the SVG by taking that attribute or the attribute value out, but not the attribute. So okay, so I think that's it for our navigation. And then I'm going to do another nav element and call this social navigation. And this is going to be a UL. Social, whoops. Social nav. And then we've got an LI with an anchor element. I'm not going to put anything in here for now. And this would be, so we've got GitHub, Instagram, LinkedIn. So I'm going to do I'm going to do a span with a class of access hidden. GitHub. Aria hidden true. And one moment, hold please. And let's see here. I don't see any inline styles. So I don't see anything that says like stroke or fill, current color, anything like that. And then this GitHub, I'm putting in a span with a class of access hidden. And then we will have CSS that hides this span in a screen reader friendly way. So when a screen reader hits this link, it knows that this is a link to GitHub. So that's that. And then this is Instagram. And let's grab our SVG. And this is going to be aria hidden true. And again, I don't see any inline styles. We have our access hidden Instagram. And then this is LinkedIn. Let's see, span, access hidden, LinkedIn. Aria hidden true. And again, I don't see any inline styles here. So that is that. I guess we didn't need to do that. Okay, excellent. There's our header. So here's our navigation, social navigation. I think that's it. So let's work on the main body. So 4 columns, classic, 4 columns, grid, classic. This would be like the H2, right? So do we want to put this in a section with an H2? Yeah, let's do that. We'll do a section. So this is going to be section. I guess we can call this, and we'll call this main. Okay, let's think about this. We're definitely going to need to have a wrap because this does not extend all the way to the edges of the page. So we would want a section and a wrap, and then each of these items would be articles. And then we can use a section because the section will have a header, which is the H2. So we'll just call this section. I'm just going to call it section with a class of section until I need a better name, because I'm at a loss for if I need that to be more specific. So this, and then we would want a div with a wrap, and then we'll do an H2, and I want to call this the page title. I usually call that secondary heading, but really I'm treating it like a page title, because if we look at this, each section is also going to have a title, but this is really the title for the page, right? And then the remaining sections would just be titles for those sections. So the remaining sections are going to be H3s, and then I think this could be an H2. Semantically, that makes sense to me, so I want to refer to this as the page title. And that's the 4 columns grid classic. 4 columns grid classic. And then, well, actually, we would want this to be outside of the wrap, because I'm going to use grid, but I'm going to use it on the wrap. Am I? Am I though? Yeah, we can do that because the wrap can still have a max width, and be the parent container for the grid, right? Yeah, I think that's fine. And I wouldn't want the H2 to be inside the wrap, because then the H2 is going to get those grid settings, and we obviously don't want that. So, and so what is this now? These are also going to be H3s. The titles of the videos are also going to be H3s. That makes sense. And so do I need 2 sets of text? I don't think so. Unless that's something that we want to do. So these are like the titles of the videos, right? And these would be the official titles of the videos. I don't think I did that here. I think this is a Vimeo. So clearly I was putting in titles different from the actual titles of the video. And if I'm going to do a JSON file, what I want these to be are the actual titles of the video. So I'm not like editing that or copy editing that or changing that. So we need to be able to support a lot more text. So do we want our titles to be all uppercase if they're really long? How's that going to look? You know what? Maybe we don't have to worry about the styles right now, Angela, and you can just put in the markup and deal with the CSS when you're actually doing the styling. Yeah. So this would be the H3, and then this would be, oh, these were the filter categories. This could be like YouTube or Vimeo, right? We could say what it is if we're not going to do the filtering. Okay. So let's do an article with a class of article, and then we're going to do a figure with the class of figure. And then in the figure, we're going to have an image. And we can grab some lorem pixum. I didn't prep any images. No, that's not what I wanted. Lorem pixum. So we can just grab this. Oh, that's not what I want. And I'm going to put in something a little bigger. I'm going to do 768 by 1024. And then the last thing I think we should do today is let's decide what we want our JSON file. So once we get this markup in place, let's make like a little test JSON file. I'm not going to write any JavaScript today, but this markup will help us figure out what data we even want to include, right? Okay, so we've got, this will be the figure, this will be the YouTube thumbnail. So the source in our JSON file is going to be the URL to the thumbnail. And I know what that is. I know how to find that. That's easy to find if you Google it. The alt text, I think, should be the title of the video. That's what I think the alt text should be. And then we would have an H3. We could call this video title. say this is the video title. Whoops. And then what would this be? We could do a paragraph tag and we could say that this is class video type. So we would say this is YouTube. I kind of like this. Where this text could be what the video source even is, so we can show people, hey, this is for YouTube or Vimeo, right? Now, what I don't have here is the video itself, because the whole point of this is that on click, we are grabbing, we're probably going to get it from, well, it would be part of the API. We would be grabbing that endpoint and then using JavaScript to create that element in a modal pop-up. But the video itself is not living inside this article. It would be part of that object for the API, right? So in fact, let's just do this now. Let's just do this now. Let's see. Yes, I have to check and see how to format a JSON document because I never get it right. Where's the last place? Grid Pro Real Style video right here. So it's bracket, object. Let's just going to copy this. Okay, so the ID we would want, so what do we want? The ID would be, I'm just going to say 0001. That's the ID. Oh, it has to be a string. Okay. And then the video we would have, all you really need is the ID. Isn't that all you need? The endpoint? I mean, that could literally be the ID. So let's go to YouTube. Let me see here. Let's find something just generic, like or we can just go right to the source. Fossil Sai. This Turkish composer who I really, really like. Let's see here. Here's this channel. Oh, wow. 245,000 subscribers. That's a lot. I don't want to play anything. Although I don't think you'd be able to hear it anyways. Hang on one second. Okay. Pause. Okay. I don't think any of that. Yeah, good. Thank you. All good. No sound. Yeah. The last thing I need is another copyright strike. Although I know Fazl Sai. I've been to Turkey. I've met him. I know his entire team. They are my friends. So if they get a little notification that I popped up, I feel pretty confident that I could avoid another copyright strike. But just to be on the safe side, everything is silent. So here's the endpoint right up here, right? So this URL structure, we would code that into we would just go ahead and code that right into the JavaScript. All we really need is this endpoint. Just like that, right? So that could be the ID, and then we could do a title, because we're not accessing we're not actually going to grab any data from the API because I don't want to deal with any API keys. So let's just do this. Okay, stop. Why won't you let me just, put in single quotes. So there's the title. So that would be the ID. It doesn't like this because this is a letter in the Turkish alphabet. It's I, but it doesn't have a dot over it. So it doesn't like that. But I don't care. I'm not going to change that. So what else would we need besides the ID and the title? I mean, we could put in, it would be less work with JavaScript. We could put this in as the URL. And then we could, I guess we could, URL, and then image. So we would want the source, which would be, so we want YouTube image URLs. So for an image, for the high quality version of the thumbnail, use a URL similar to this. This is pretty old, this post. Give this a minute to load. Rehan Anwar is here. Hello, welcome. We're happy to have you. Okay, clearly this page isn't loading. So let's try this. So here's our ID. Yep, that's it. Well, it's not the full-size version though. It's a version. Let's see here. Okay, there's 1, 2, 3. These are just the different thumbnails that YouTube generates when you upload a video. It's, hang on, it's supposed to be, I think it's HQ default or HQ or MQ. Let's try them. I can never remember. Default. No. HQ. It's still a generated image though. Default HQ, MQ, or SD. Oh, M is for medium. Default, the default thumbnail image. High. For video, a resource that refers to this image as 480 by 360. For a channel, this is 800 by 800. This is old too. So let's just do but I don't want that version. We could probably just do MQ default. It gives us a 16:9 aspect ratio. And I don't think they need to be bigger than this, and I want to pull directly from YouTube. I don't want to store a bunch of images. So this would be MQ default. So I would like to know what people think. Do you think that we should build an API, like a JSON file, that has all of these things figured out for us? Or should we write the JavaScript that parses that ID? Well, what parsing do you even need to do? So the way that I had to deal with this when I was in my job at St. Thomas is that we had a CMS where people would just copy and paste the YouTube URL into the CMS. And then in my view component, my view app, I had to parse the URL, grab the ID, grab that endpoint, and then build the URL for the embed, right? And then also build the URL for the image. What's more important here? JavaScript that does that parsing, which there really isn't any parsing if we already have the ID. JavaScript that builds those URLs, or a JSON file that just has the data. Because my thinking was the bulk of the JavaScript was really going to be around building the embed for the modal, the pop-up. That on click we would create that element. So how complex does this need to be? I'm thinking, I'm not sure. I don't think we need this. We don't need this. I don't need this. We don't really need this stuff because we're not really showing all this information. We're just trying to store the ID, the title, the image, the URL. And then I don't even need to put in an alt text because the title is going to be the alt text, although we could write custom alt text. So a JSON file would be easier to manage in my opinion. I like using JSON files for the control it gives me. Yeah, and then it's going to simplify our JavaScript. It's going to make the JavaScript process a lot simpler if I don't have to write a bunch of JavaScript in order to parse a URL. Um, yeah. So the title would be the the title would double as the title for the article. It would all so the title would be the H3. The title would also be the alt text. The title would also be, really to keep things semantic, well, that's when the iframe is created on click. You have to have a title attribute inside the iframe in order to make it accessible. So the title's going to do like triple duty, which is totally fine. That's good that it's going to do that. I don't know if we need anything more than this. This is going to be a very simple JSON file. And then people can decide for themselves, because the whole point of the responsive video grid is to show people how to make a grid, how to make it semantic and accessible, how to use JavaScript to do the modal pop-up, right? Which is going to really be a combination of JavaScript and semantic HTML, but on click creating that embed element, right? And then there's going to be two sets of data, one for YouTube and one for Vimeo. Oops. Okay, good. I'm glad we're doing this now. And then let's do type. This is going to be YouTube. And then in order to parse or load the correct embed on click, we have to know if it's YouTube or Vimeo, right? You have to know which one it is. And then I would rather put effort into parsing the correct embed than building an image and video URL. And then do we actually need a URL to the video? So what if this down here, this secondary text that's either going to say YouTube or Vimeo based on the type of video, what if this links to the page? I like that idea. So then we have a use for this URL also. Yeah, I like that. That makes sense to me. Yeah, easier to just pull from the JSON file. See all the details that you have to like work out. This is the other thing. This is the other reason that I like to do some of this planning during the live stream. It's because this is really, really common when you're in a job as a front-end developer. So you could be given a task or an assignment from your leadership team, but these are all questions that they won't know need to be answered until you sit down and start mapping all of this out. So a lot of front-end developers, and I don't think you guys really realize this, need to have good requirements gathering skills. It's all, I mean, if you work in a small to medium-sized team especially, a lot of front-end developers are also doing a lot of their own BA work, right? Business analysis, is that what it's called? BA work, where you're doing requirements gathering. You're mapping out what the process is and all the steps and all the questions that need to be answered. And I guarantee you, even on teams where there are long-standing relationships and you've worked with someone for a really long time, I promise you, a leadership team or a product manager or whomever if they're not a developer, just because they gave you a task or they gave you something to work on doesn't mean that they sorted out all of these types of details. And there's a million different directions that we could go here, right? I've laid them all out. I've laid out all these scenarios. What's the best way to structure this? Should we just go ahead and put the data in the API, or should we handle all of those things with JavaScript? There's a million different questions that need to be answered here. There's different ways to do it. And this is an important part of the process, especially in all parts of development, but I run into it a lot in front-end development too. So that's why I like doing this as part of the stream. So, okay. So this is an example of what the JSON data is going to look like. So let's go ahead and save this. So we'll just call this videos.json. And then I'm going to fill this in next week. So we've got the ID, we've got the type, we've got the title, which is also going to be the alt text and the title for the iframe. We've got the URL, so we can link back to this page where the video lives. And then we've got the image that we're going to use as the thumbnail for the grid. This is very neat and tidy. So I like this. I like it. Where are we at on time? Okay, we're doing good. Close a few of these. I also realized I didn't put in the mobile. We'll do that next week. I'll put in the mobile navigation drawer next week. Yeah, so I'm just going to copy this in. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11, 12. So we've got 12 items now for styling. Yes, 12. Okay, good. What else do we have here? And then I think just the footer. So let's go ahead and put in the footer, and then I will add to this week. Well, tomorrow. Let's add to this tomorrow. We'll add to our mockup how we actually want those sections with the prism and the code syntax highlighting and those instructions on how to implement this. Let's do that tomorrow. Yeah, that's a good idea. And then, but let's get the footer markup in here today. So we'll work on the additional sections and how the syntax highlighting, the copy paste code snippets would look. And then we'll also add in our mobile drawer and navigation. Yeah. Well, I got a lot more done today than I thought I would. Let's see here. Okay, so we've got copyright. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to do paragraph with a class of copyright. And it's copyright symbol. I'm going to do a span with an ID of year, and then we'll dynamically add the year with some JavaScript. And we'll say, I'm going to put in my name with a link back to my site. we'll open that in a new window. So that'll be the first item. And then this will be social media navigation. So we'll say nav, social navigation. And I'm going to borrow. Actually, yeah, let's just copy this and we'll add the remaining two. The remaining two icons. So we've got GitHub, Instagram, LinkedIn, and then let's add span with a class of access hidden. We'll add X, and I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to take out this attribute for the fill. So I'm going to take out the attribute value, but not the attribute itself. And then we'll do, we need a YouTube icon. Perfect. And I don't see any inline styles here. Let's not forget our ARIA hidden. ARIA hidden true. ARIA hidden true. We also need to decide on our markup. Well, probably we don't need to do anything other than right here. We would do something like div modal window, right? We could just leave this right like this, and then this is what we would use to access this div. Or something like this, create element, I don't know, with our JavaScript. I don't know if we really need to worry about that now. We have so many decisions to make. I love it. I love it. Okay, so here's our social media icons. What's the third thing? Oh, back to top. So I'm going to do another paragraph with an anchor element. And then this would be probably gallery, right? And back to top. So this would be an ID of gallery. All right, let's get our GitHub repository. So we'll do, what am I going to call it? Responsive video gallery. Free, I guess, free or new. Responsive video gallery. Okay, I have to think about this because I have to think about what I just want to spend a second thinking about like the the naming convention because I have so many plans. I have so many plans in 2026 for digital products with a free open, well, everything I do is open source, right? Everything I do is open source. But what is my strategy for open source work that will also have a paid version? So, responsive video gallery free. I guess this would be free. Well, but how do I integrate the paid version in the demo? Responsive video gallery. Let's just do updated. Updated. Yeah. I'm spending too much time thinking about this. I clearly I hadn't put too much thought into how I was going to organize this. Clearly the paid version of this will have to be a private repository. So then how do I integrate? Well, gosh, this is going to be so good for deployment. We could just integrate the different sites as directories of the domain, right? The paid versions as directories, individual directories. And then, because this repository needs to be public if it's open source. So I'm going to call this open. Yeah. As in open source. And then I will have private repositories that will be the paid versions. And then as long as everything is in a directory, deploying it shouldn't be a problem. It's slightly more work. Let's see here. Oh, creative freedom and all that. Would love for a border radius to make a slight appearance. I'll think about it. I don't love border radius. I just don't like the way it looks. It looks weird to me. Rahul says he is extremely late. I don't think you're late. I think you're exactly on time. You're exactly where you need to be. Technically, I started 2 hours ago, but we're happy you're here. We're happy you're making an appearance, obviously. Go Elmo Go says preview or trial makes sense. I like that. I like preview because trial sort of implies that this would the trial would end, but preview I kind of like. Responsive video gallery preview. Yeah. And then what I could do is I could fork this repository, right? Because when you fork something, you get updates if the original repository changes and you want to merge those in with a pull request. So if I made changes, so here's what I'm thinking. If I made changes to CSS, like the header, the footer, things like that, I could fork those things into the private version of the repository. I hadn't put much thought of this into this clearly. I do kind of like preview. Responsive video gallery preview. But I also like free. I'm going to go with open, as in open source. Okay. It's just, okay, so let's go ahead and get this pushed up. And then we will be done for today. And we have a good start. And we've answered so many questions. So let's make sure that we have a get ignore before. Pro tip, put in your get ignore before you do the get init. And I just want to ignore mockups. I want to ignore, although I could just ignore the PSDs. I'm also going to add affinity photo files. For now, I'm going to ignore this directory, and then any design files will go in here, but I do eventually want to include a screenshot. So we'll do that. Well, we can do that now. So for now, I'm just going to ignore mockups, but we can put a screenshot in here. So let's do that. One moment. Allergies. I have a runny nose, man. And Rahul says basic and pro are also good options. Yeah. Basic and pro. I think actually pro sounds good. I'm going to go with open as in open source and pro. Yeah, pro when I start the private repo. I like that though. So we're going to go with open and pro. And then that can be my naming convention for future products. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this. Hang on. Export this as I'm going to export this as a PDF. And I'm going to export this as a PDF. And then these can be included as design files. I can't distribute the original, the layered files, but I can do this. I can support these. Did I make sure, excuse me, did I make sure that these did not have layers? Don't export layers. Okay, hang on, I have to redo this. Don't export layers. Don't include layers. Okay, I'm going to redo this. Don't export layers. Okay, so now we've got PDFs, and those should be flattened. And now we'll do a get init. right, there we go. And Rahul says, I have seen theme companies naming demo and pro for their themes. Also, open sounds good for open source. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I'm still sort of sorting out the details of how I want to structure this. But to me, this is also part of the fun of this is this kind of planning and coming up with like a convention for how you want to do things. Oh, look, and I forgot to ignore this DS store. So annoying. I'll do that later. And Rahul says, by the way, how is Affinity Suite after Canva acquired it? There were 3 standalone apps and now it's a bundle of 3. So I'm still using the original 3 apps. I haven't downloaded the new app bundled all together, but I think Go Elmo Go, I think Malik is using it. So maybe Malik can give us can let us know how that's going. I'm pretty sure you're using it, aren't you, Malik? And I also think that you bought the Photoshop files to the blog that I built out. Yeah, he has been using the bundle and he likes it. How, I would also like to know, is it intuitive or have you needed to watch videos on how to use it? I would be curious to know. I didn't have any trouble switching to it because I was also a experienced Photoshop user, so I didn't really have trouble switching to the Affinity suite. And Malik says, I've been using it for pretty much everything. That's awesome. So, and it's totally free now, completely free. So if you're looking for something, I think Figma, does Figma cost anything? Why do I think Figma is also either free or maybe they just have a freemium version? Let's see here. Let's go. Starter. Choose Starter if you are working on personal projects, need basic design, presentation, and brainstorming tools. Unlimited drafts, unlimited UI kits and templates, basic design file inspection, and some AI capabilities. $12 a month for a dev seat. So, I mean, $12, $16 a month, it's not nothing. Doesn't seem like much, but, and maybe if you're, an experienced designer and you're making the big bucks, that's not a big deal. I can just tell you where I'm at right now in my life. I'm happy to pay things that bring value. Happy to pay things that bring value, make my life easier. But there are too many free options out there for me to pay $12 or $16. So I personally would not pay for this, knowing that Affinity is free. There are free tools out there that read Photoshop files. That's the important part for me. So, yeah, and Malik says, I have not used the 3 standalone apps, so I had to use videos to understand how to work it. But I feel if you use the previous apps, then using the bundle is probably pretty easy. Yeah, I would agree with that. I didn't have any trouble jumping in and using any of the Affinity products after having been an Adobe user. So, all right. Well, this was a good day. This was productive. This was really productive. So again, tomorrow, let's talk about what these additional sections are going to look like with the syntax highlighting. We'll add in the mobile drawer for the navigation. We'll get that markup done, and then we'll see if we get to any styling tomorrow. But this is a great start on this project. I'm always amazed that I can do planning and write any code at all whatsoever in a 2-hour period. So, and we had a good crowd today. Views are down across YouTube. This is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing other creators saying the same thing. You know, I have a tiny channel. I don't have a big channel, but I'm used to getting 200 or 300 views per stream. Not the same thing as concurrent viewers. That is generally hovers between 15 to 25. But it's been down the last couple of months, and we had a decent crowd today. So thank you to everybody who clicked on the thumbnail, hung out, even if you weren't in the chat and you just hung out and watched me yammer on. I appreciate you. Do me a favor, if you haven't liked the video yet, would you please go ahead and do so? If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that as well. I would love to have you. I'm here every weekend, pretty much for the most part, Saturdays and Sundays, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. We just hang out and we practice vanilla HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. The whole point of this channel is to practice and to talk to other people who enjoy front-end development and to just practice and get better at some of the vanilla basics. We don't have anything against frameworks and libraries. I do think that they are overemphasized and that vanilla basics aren't emphasized enough these days. If you're a new developer, I think it will serve you well to have this set of skills. So there's that. And Rahul says, good to know. Thanks. I think you're responding to Malik. Yeah, I would like to know, Rahul, if you start to use Affinity, what your experience is. So, and I don't use TikTok. I do upload shorts. I do have shorts on my channel here on YouTube. So let's see here. In fact, my shorts are my best viewed content. They're the only content that consistently gets 1,000, even, I have several shorts that have gotten up to 1,000 views. And I literally only have 2 videos on my entire channel that have ever gotten over 1,000 views. And you know what? It's fine. It is what it is. I used to be pretty obsessive. I've had to come to the conclusion that if I'm going to be in YouTube for the long haul, like really in it for the long haul, I have to lighten up a little bit. I have to relax. It's not a bad thing to pay attention to your analytics and to figure out what it is that people want to see, but it's a long game. I'm not trying to go viral. There's literally, what am I doing here that's ever going to go viral? Maybe a short would go viral, but shorts generally don't bring in subs and views to long form videos. They can get you a little bit of attention, a little bit of exposure, and I'm not complaining about that. That's not bad. But look at the videos that I make. I'm making deployment content and time lapses of building mobile navigation. This is an 8-hour and 46-minute project video. These videos don't go viral. This is a library of content, and I do believe that if I'm in this for the long haul, I keep showing up, I keep making content, that the algorithm's going to figure out what to do with me eventually. I do think that there's an audience for this type of content on YouTube, and I'm not going anywhere. That's why I'm so excited about having the idea or finally being open to digital products, because I was so absolutely opposed to courses. I didn't want to be like a vessel or a funnel for courses. I want this information to be open and out into the open. And I want this to be a place where people can ask questions and learn and not need to sign up for another freaking course. But I also recognize that sometimes not everybody wants to do a deep dive on how to build all these things. Yes, they want to be good at their jobs and they want to understand. They even want to have a good understanding of vanilla concepts on how to do things, but also they're busy and they just need something that works. So now that I finally have my head wrapped around what I think digital products could look like and making sure that there's always a solid open source version of a digital product, I'm wholeheartedly embracing this for 2026. And we're going to build it together. We're going to do it together. I'm going to bring you guys along for the ride. I want you here with me for the people who care about this type of thing. So there's that. And Monique Robinson is here. Welcome, Monique. We are happy to see you. I love my mods. Monique Robinson, Malik, Rahul. I love you guys. You're amazing. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Terry Murray was here. Artie and Trees was here. AK Code, am I saying that right? I'm just going to say AK Code was here. We had other folks here today too. Thank you to everybody who hung out in the chat and said hello. All right, everybody, come back tomorrow. We're going to keep working on this. I love you guys. You're amazing. Thank you for letting me just sit here and talk. It always feels so good to just sit here and talk and get my ideas out. Have a great rest of your day wherever you are. I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.